Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are coming in from. Um, this is Scott Aaron. I have a really, really awesome interview prepared this morning. Dr. Beth Westie. She should be popping on here. I tagged her in this. Um, if you're a woman out there, oh, she's already here. Here she comes. For all my ladies out there that want to know hormones and how that could affect your health and what you can do to feel and look your best, this is an interview that you want to listen to. So I'm going to wait
Me.
for. Hi, it worked. Hey, how are you?
Oh my God, technology has not necessarily been my bestie today.
Yeah,
So,
it's so funny. Like I had the same issue with Sandy Vo a couple days ago
yeah.
because we were trying to do a podcast and her Wi-Fi was going out, and then we did a Facebook Live and her like it just there's definitely the universe definitely tries to assist you to bob and weave
Mm,
whenever you can. So, but again,
yeah,
we're here.
we're
Um,
here.
Super duper stoked, and I'm glad that we were able to reconnect and we made something happen. I do know how precious your time is, and how obviously with your podcast and your businesses. So I want to get right to it. So
Yeah.
what I love about what you do is that I always believe that people with specialties and passions, they need to be highlighted because the message that you have for a lot of women specifically is one that needs to be heard because the hormonal differences between a male and a female are completely different, and that does relate back to the nutrients and the food that go back into our bodies. And obviously with your chiropractic background, with my personal training and sports nutrition background, we hit it off right away in our mastermind.
Hmm.
And I definitely feel that you have a message, and you are just a wealth of knowledge as far as what you're doing for clients and how you go about things. So obviously I wanted to bring you into my network because it's female dominated, and I really want those ladies to get to know you because I do know for a fact that all of them could benefit from your business, from your services and your programs. So just a little short introduction about yourself. Who is Dr. Beth Westie? Where is she from, and what does she do?
Okay. Well, thank you. That's so nice. Like you're like building this up. It's so wonderful. Yes, we did connect at the mastermind, which is so funny. It's one of those things I was like, how did I not know Scott before? Like, come on.
Yeah,
Brilliant guy. Brilliant, brilliant guy.
thank you.
So, okay. So a little bit about me. I live in Minneapolis. I'm from Minnesota. I grew up on a small goat farm, so I grew up milking goats and doing all that stuff. I was an athlete in high school and in college. I played volleyball in college, got invited to play on some pro teams overseas, turned that down to go to chiropractic school. I had my first two kids while I was a student and then graduated, started a clinic, got pregnant with my third, like didn't waste any time.
Didn't waste any time.
um, and that was a real struggle for me. I was, a fresh new business owner, had no idea what I was doing, and wasn't really making any money. And then was pregnant, and my youngest was actually a preemie, so she was born 2 months early, almost
Wow.
2 months early. Yep. So 23 days in the NICU, all that stuff with a failing business. And then when I took her home, I really had to get to work in a different way,
Mm.
building it from the ground up, well, from a whole, we'll say actually, with a preemie, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home, and built it to within a couple of years having a really high volume, successful office. But I started working a lot with women's health, and doing a lot of, I'm certified in acupuncture and Eastern medicine. So I started doing a ton of work with women in hormonal issues, cycle issues, fertility, hot flashes, the gamut, because I actually had ovarian cysts after my third was born.
Mm.
And the reason I share all that, part of my story, and like, because, with a preemie and then a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and a failing business, I wasn't really sleeping, right?
Mm.
And I wasn't really doing the best self-care. I wasn't even keeping my head above water. It was
Mm.
like I was drowning and then just getting up above to take a gulp of air and go back under again. And it was, my health started to suffer. I got ovarian cysts, and it's the stuff that I teach women every day now. That was one of the key points that helped turn my health around. I talk about eating for hormones and nutrition. You have 4 different bodies throughout the month. Every week your body is doing something different hormonally. And so for women to understand this and think it's not my fault, right? You're not doing anything wrong. It's just you're not aligning with what you're eating and how you're working out and how you're treating yourself with where your body's at, physiologically, where
Yeah.
your chemicals are at. So I have a real passion for what I do, because this is the key thing that helped me get rid of my ovarian cysts. I haven't, my youngest is 8. I haven't had them, because I suffered for about a year and a half, over 18 months. Yeah, like a cyst would burst and I'd be on the floor. Like
Oh,
just,
and by the way, you do have a best-selling book as well.
oh my God, I do.
You have a best-selling book on all of this. So
Yes,
obviously,
on all of this.
I'm
Yeah.
going to want you to
So
talk about that. So,
yeah.
well, I mean, just to kind of reiterate, I'm a big believer in turning your passion into profit, and um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, and
I
this
like
is,
that.
and Beth, I am not knocking um, anyone that is a coach, but what I feel um, certifies certain people to become coaches, life coaches, or what you're doing. And the best certification you could ever get is life experience,
Yeah.
because when you experience something and you figure out a solution to the problem of what you went through, now you have a system, now you have a program. Just like with what I do, everyone there's solutions for problems, and someone needs to figure out what it is, and then that certifies you to be a coach, to say, hey, listen, I know what you're going through, I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly how you feel here. I mean, you know the, I mean, I mean, it would be just stupid to think that there are no other women out there that have ever had ovarian cysts, because they have. I mean,
Yeah.
so, and then when you connected how you were feeling to the nutrition, and understanding that there's 4 different types of cycles, so to speak, that one woman goes through hormonally, and then you were able to dive in and figure out exactly how to layer the nutrition with each one of those things to help people naturally heal each other with what we have to consume each day. It's just brilliant. So let's so let's talk about, and I love your videos, because I love whiteboards, I love drawing, and I always love seeing you do what you're doing. So yeah, there I because I recognize where you are right now.
It's my precious right there.
So obviously, and this is what people need to know. You were and still are a successful chiropractor, but
Mhm.
obviously this other business, this nutritional hormonal wellness that you are passionate about, obviously is something that you really, really are driving forward with, and it's been a whole other game changer for you and your business partner, which obviously you guys have something really wonderful going. So talk a little bit about how all of this came about. Obviously, 18 months and finally defeating the whole ovarian cyst issue that you were having. So obviously, now the passion has turned into profit by you just helping so many people. So how did it come about? And what kind of results are people getting from the knowledge and the skills that you now have from this?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I'll back up a minute. So when I was really suffering, you know, going through this, it was really, really tough. I was doing a lot of things and I tried to incorporate a lot of stuff, right? And I'm a natural healthcare practitioner, right? So all my friends are naturopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists, right?
Right.
Osteopaths. And I was reaching out to everybody in my network, all my, colleagues and friends, and I was like, yo, I'm having this issue. Here's the things that I'm doing. Like, what am I missing? And so I got a ton of info from people, and I was trying all these things, doing all these things. I was taking a basket of supplements every day. I'm not kidding. I had a basket. It was from Target. It was white. It was very cute. And I had 35 bottles in there.
35.
Yeah, 35 every day. It would take me over a half an hour. to
That's a
take all my
smorgasbord
supplements.
of vitamins.
Yeah, like forget the whole like, oh, I put all my supplements in my weekly thing. No, I didn't even have that. It was literally like baggies of stuff. It was
Mm.
crazy what I was doing, but I was trying so hard because I was like, this was not something for me before. I know something's wrong. I don't know how to fix it. I don't. And finally, there was at one point I was on the floor, with a cyst, and my husband got so worried he drove me to the ER because I was like, it's just a cyst, I'm fine. Doctors are the worst patients.
Yep.
So he drove me to the ER, made me go in, and the doc was like, well, it's a cyst. And I'm like, yep. And he goes, here's your Vicodin, here's your birth control. And I was like, no.
Not the answer I was looking for.
Right. Yeah. And I explained to him, I said, I want to understand why this is happening. This wasn't happening before for me, before I had kids. Obviously, having kids can be very traumatic on your system, but I want to uncover why this is happening and correct it. I don't want to what am I supposed to do? Just be on Vicodin all the time? And he was like,
Yeah.
well, yeah. And then I was like, and birth control gives me other side effects that I really don't want. What other answers are there for me out there? I'm looking for something that takes care of it, not just covers it up. And birth control is not the answer for me, right? So
Now, my friend Lindy just came on here and she said, I
mhm.
know the feeling. She goes, I've been struggling with cysts for a long time and
Oh,
she just had surgery. So, Lindy, I
yeah.
absolutely suggest you to connect with Beth
Yes.
offline. So, Lindy, definitely connect with. I tagged her in this, so definitely send her a message.
Oh, yes, girl. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah, so I was totally frustrated. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I left there, and I'm sure a lot of people have this experience where I left there feeling like he didn't listen to me at all. He doesn't really understand my problem. And I guarantee that whatever he just told me, again, the Vicodin and birth control, it's not really going to help me. Because also a big part of that is I was like, I'm not going to be doped up my whole life. Like, that's
Yeah.
not how I want to live. Mm,
Or putting another steroid
mm,
into my body.
right. No, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So, so I didn't do any of that. And it wasn't until I started diving into the Eastern medicine training that I have, diving into the acupuncture and extending upon that. I was like, how can I do this and work on my hormones every single day? I help women with cycle issues, with fertility, with all these other things. And I just researched, I started diving in and I started matching my nutrition to my hormones, following along with basal body temperature and everything too. And it started working for me. I started sharing it with my patients. I started working with women in my office, again, just on a smaller scale, but it really started to grow from there. And it grew so much so that I got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write a book on this. I'm gonna help more women, right? And then I got like 4 pages done in like 6 months because I because I still had, right. I'm running a bit. I'm running a
I
clinic full
listen.
time, three
I
young
it
kids.
took me 11 months to get my last book out. I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. So I was like, well, crap, Okay, either I was like, I know being in active practice, I loved it. I love working on people. I was like, but I want to get this message out to women. So I sold my office and I jumped into writing and speaking and serving women full time. Just because I was like, this has to be done. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did. And then from there, it's one of those things that the more I can share this message with women, the more, I mean, and I know business wise and everything else, it just grows and grows.
Yeah.
But it's because these women, which I'm so grateful for. But it's not the primary reason that I started doing what I do. I mean, I was doing really well in my office. I didn't need to, you know what I mean? I do this because I am so shocked and appalled at how women are underserved in general health, and then how we don't know enough about our bodies and how we're not guided to really work with our hormones, or we're not even believed when we go
So
into the hospital, or when we go in and say, hey, I can't even tell you how many women I chat with that they're like, my doctor just sent me for a psych consult.
mm.
And I'm like, I'm so sorry,
Well, my friend Katie just wrote. She was she had a drug addiction for 20 years,
Mm,
and she's now sober. But she
awesome,
said
Katie.
that she does, yeah, amazing, and she doesn't feel good, and she feels like her hormones are completely out
Mm,
of whack because of the substance abuse. So
yeah.
just touch on that because you know women are affected hormonally by just using Katie as an example, substance abuse, but using yourself as an example, having children. There are so many different things that go into effect as far as affecting women's hormonal levels, where it then affects how they feel, sleeping patterns, hot flashes, body fat gaining, weight gain, bloating,
Yes.
water retention, all of these things.
Yes.
So what have you learned about food in general that has really started to help and address these hormonal issues with women on a grand scale? So what are some things that you've learned about women in general, substance abuse aside, kids aside, just natural hormonal things, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, all these things that women produce? What have you learned about food and how it really affects all of those things?
Yes. So really good question. When we talk about women's health and all these like hormones are off. So again, they go through some type of trauma, and trauma can be, years of addiction. Trauma can be children. Trauma can be extreme stress. It can be illness. It can be surgery. It can be a brain injury. It can be even not sleeping for years because you had kids, So there's so
Side
many
note.
Sorry, no.
Yeah.
Having kids is so great. So all these things happen, right? And it depletes your system. It totally just brings everything down. And then it has this negative hormonal effect. So your hormones get off, your cycle gets off. You feel like, I don't know how to get this going. And a lot of women will do things like, okay, I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to eat healthy, which is great, right? That's great. I'm going to cut out sugars. Awesome. But if you're not also supporting the hormonal piece of it, which is what I teach in my book, how to eat for your hormones and your cycle, how to eat for your hormones, even if you're in menopause, you still have a hormonal pattern to go off of. And if you're not supporting that at the same time, they can't get back to their level playing ground. And our hormones are impressionable, right? They're not static, right? I mean, for every gal out there that's listening, I mean, how many times in your life have you ever been really stressed out and your period's late, or you skip your period, right? Or how many times have you, or like college, you move into a house with 3 or 4 other gals, doesn't take very long
Doesn't
for
take
your
very
cycles,
long till all
for
those
your
things are
cycles.
matching up.
Yes, right? And that's because our hormones are impressionable by our environment, by other people, by other things, by other toxins, right? And when that's thrown off, the female body, when it's under stress of any kind, so as a reaction, right, of these traumas in life, it actually increases your body's capacity to store fat. The female body is designed to store fat, but it increases the capacity for you to store fat. So it will just crank on and be like, oh, trauma, great, fat storage.
So Beth, would you say that cortisol is one of the main contributors? Because everyone has some sort of natural cortisol level,
Yeah.
but the way, because men and women biologically are different as far as how our emotions are handled. Men have high testosterone levels, lower estrogen levels. Women have high estrogen and progesterone levels and lower testosterone levels. But because there's a higher level of estrogen, that means that you're more prone to having higher quantities of cortisol release, because emotions tend to run higher. There's more stress involved in all of that. So talk a little bit about, obviously how cortisol really does play a factor on all of these things, but how by certain nutritional techniques of which you teach and what your business is based around, people can start to naturally rebalance their hormones, so they start sleeping better, their skin clears up, they have more energy during the day, their period, if they're obviously still menstruating, they're on a steady schedule. People that are premenopausal, the hot flashes aren't as bad. People that are postmenopausal, they're having more of a balanced hormonal whatever's, I guess, left at that point, but they're feeling more balanced and more stable at that point. So just speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Where did you start?
Cortisol.
Cortisol. Okay, that's right. Cortisol. Cortisol is like this big monster that steals from estrogen and progesterone and even testosterone. And it'll even steal from thyroid, right? Your entire endocrine system is connected. It's not just, and that's the thing where women are, I feel like, misled in terms of how you even look at your own body, how you're taught to look at your own body. We're taught that a female body is essentially a male body, but with a uterus. Just throw a uterus in there and then it's a female. It's like, no, our hormones are so important and integrative in entire systems. right? They pass through the blood-brain barrier. So it affects your mental, capacity in terms of brain fog, memory, all those other things, and all those other neurotransmitters that follow down the chain here. So when you're talking about cortisol, and women process cortisol and stress different than men do. And we have different healing time than men do, all of this stuff. So it's really important to address that, absolutely, and that it will steal from the hormonal piece of it, which then throws off your hormones and everything else. So when I recommend, women to eat for their hormones in their cycle, it's identifying, okay, even if your pattern is off, even if you're having trouble, start somewhere. Like start with whatever you think a day one could be for you, and start implementing cooling foods during the estrogen phase, which is days 1 through 14.
Oh,
and
this
then
is so good.
Yeah, warming foods days 15 through 28, which is the progesterone phase, right? And that alone is going to help set that pattern for you. So your body hormonally will fall into this pattern. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does help.
What are cooling foods and what are warming foods?
Yes. So this is, again, an Eastern medicine thing, an Ayurvedic thing. So it might sound a little weird, but cooling foods, and again, this matches with your basal body temperature too, because your body temperature is lower during this estrogen phase, days 1 through 14. Cooling foods are going to be chicken, turkey, fish, raw fruits and vegetables, right? Cooling spices, rosemary, thyme, dill, cilantro, right? Then you flip over after ovulation, day 15, boom, hit those warming foods hard for progesterone. Your body temperature should be higher and stay higher. And so when you're talking warming, beef, bacon, venison, bison.
Cayenne pepper, red pepper flakes, things that naturally raise
spicy
your body's.
Yep. Any thermogenic food, cinnamon, ginger, and for women too, our bodies are functionally different at that point as well. So as you're increasing those warming foods, our digestive system actually slows down at that point also. So those warming foods actually help keep things moving. So you're less likely to be bloated or constipated, especially leading up to the week before you start your period, right? Gals will be like, oh my God, I'm so bloated. What's happening? And I'm like, oh my God.
I haven't pooped in 2 days. Oh my God, This is terrible.
Yeah. So this is really the thing about warming foods helping your digestive system. It's all synergistic with not just, it helps your hormones, but it also helps all these other body systems work together so that you feel better, things function better. You get better energy, you get better sleep. And then in terms of your metabolism, because for women, a lot of times, you can't boost your metabolism if your digestive system sucks.
Well, I know you're gluten-free and dairy-free, but my friend Cindy is on here, and she's mostly plant-based, and she just eats fish and shrimp. So someone, I mean, obviously I want you to go back to the comment section because I want you to connect with all these people because they, two people wanted you to PM them. So I want you to go reach out to them. But Cindy's question, what about if you are mainly plant-based and just fish and shrimp-based as well?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. Or if you're vegetarian too, same thing applies. So the great thing about eating for your hormones in your cycle, and again, I outline this more in my book. I have a webinar coming up, which I can, put a link here if people want to, join the webinar because I dive into this. The great thing about it is that it's not restrictive. It doesn't matter, right? Like if you don't eat meat, totally cool, right? There's a ton of other cooling things you can do to integrate. And even if you're in that cooling phase and say you're going over to a friend's house for dinner and they're serving, tacos that are really spicy or something, they're like, crap, right. That's okay, right? It's more of taking a snapshot of your day. Are you doing more cooling things? Great. Then your body's going to get that imprint and impression from the nutrient that you're taking in. And that's going to help with the estrogen, the correct production of the right estrogens in your system, and help everything balance out that natural ebb and flow. When people say balancing your hormones, they shouldn't be even, right?
Yeah.
They should ebb and flow throughout the month. And when you're getting that correct patterning, that's when everything changes.
I love that. All right. Yeah. So I want to be respectful of your time, and I know that we have very productive days ahead of us. So where can people get your book, and what is it called? How can they register for your webinar? So after we're done and after this post, I want you to go back to the comment section.
Yeah.
And I want you to drop a link to your website, to your book, to your webinar. But if people want to be proactive right now and just go and do this, where can they find your book and what is it called? When is your next webinar, and how can they contact you directly?
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Excellent. So my book is called The Female Fat Solution. This is just on Amazon. So you can go to Amazon and get The Female Fat Solution. I have a podcast, The Female Health Solution, which is on All Things Places podcast. You can find me on Facebook here. You can message me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, Dr. Beth Westie. And then I have a website, which is drbethwestie.com, where you can, check out a bunch more information about me. And then I have a YouTube channel too, where if you're looking for something specific, like, ooh, endometriosis, I wonder if she's done something on that. Yep. Go to my YouTube channel and search endometriosis, and you will see videos that I've done on that specifically. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I cover a lot of topics.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Beth, before we log off, I mean, you're just such an amazing human being, an amazing wife, an amazing mother, business owner, entrepreneur, and, truly just a jack of all trades. So on a business side,
Okay.
because I have a lot of entrepreneurs and obviously a lot of women, that's mostly who aren't here right now. And a lot of them do want to talk to you. So I really suggest you connecting with all of them after this. If I was to ask you this one question, there's no wrong answer, but I always love ending my interviews with this question. What does success truly mean to you?
Ooh. Oh, that's a really good question. So I'm so glad you didn't ask me this earlier. I don't have a prepared canned answer. I really think it's just being happy with where you're at in life right now. I mean, and there's different things that we go through in different phases of life. I mean, there's even a section in my book where I call it the 7 bodies of Eve, where we talk about different bodies throughout a female's life. You know what I mean? Because when I was younger and when I was in the middle of, school and having babies and everything, my life purpose, I felt, was a little bit different than it is right now. And to be successful and to be happy with where you're at and the direction that you're going. And even if you're not exactly where you want to be yet, you know that you are definitely on your way. Even a tiny step in the right direction is still a step.
I love that. Beth, just so grateful for you and your friendship. And, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. And I'm looking forward to doing a role reversal next week with you and getting interviewed by you, because obviously we are doing our best to collaborate and to, bring people into both of our networks. But more so than that, I'm just grateful that the time that you took and all the knowledge that you shared. And for anyone that's on here, absolutely go to her website, drbethwestie.com. Follow her on Facebook, on Instagram, connect with her, get her book. She's going to go back after this and she's going to leave a link to go buy her book, but also jump on her webinars. I've heard nothing but amazing things about them, because you learn so much more in depth about what she does and how it works. So Beth, thank you so much for coming on here today. Grateful for you, and have a great rest of your Thursday.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is super fun, and I will see you on here next week.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. So for all the ladies out there, if you're just jumping on here, I know Amy came on late. Go back, watch the whole thing of this. I mean, this was an epic interview with Dr. Beth Westie. You need to listen to this, whether you are premenopausal, postmenopausal, menopausal, just regular. I can't believe I'm talking about all this, but regular menstruating, all that stuff. You need to learn how there's 4 stages of a women's cycle and how your food, cooling foods, warming foods, that can really help you start feeling better. So guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Love you all so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.